because when you have kids, you know what families want, a safe, pest-free home.
And by Golden Pond Assisted Living, honoring resident choice, dignity, and independence. Our health and wellness focus keeps residents active. Golden Pond, state-of-the-art senior housing and healthcare services.
You're watching HCAM TV, and for more Hopkinton, visit HCAM Ed.
It's 6 now?
What's up, Bob?
Okay. We're ready? Okay. Okay, I would like to call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Hopkinton Select Board is being held both in person and remotely using the video conference platform Zoom. All members participating in the meeting are present in the meeting room. The public has the option of attending in person here at Town Hall or via Zoom using the link posted in the meeting's agenda. This meeting is being recorded. And then our first item is a request a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose 3, to consider strategy with respect to negotiations relative to non-union employees, town manager, fire chief, police chief, and collective bargaining relative to DPW, police, fire, and library unions, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the board. Second item, to approve executive session minutes. Third, to allow Norman Kamalo and Aline Lazarus to participate in the executive session. And fourth, to reconvene an open session at the conclusion of executive session.
So moved. Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote. Or, actually, if we're all here, we don't have to do roll call.
But for executive session, you always have to do roll call.
Okay, so Mayor Kramer?
Mayor Kramer, yes.
Ted Stone, yes.
Maria, yes.
Amy Rhoda-Bush, yes. So we'll be off. we can't begin. Okay, good evening. The Select Board has adjourned their executive session and now reconvening an open session. I would call the meeting to order, and as the first order of business, I'd like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So the first item on our public agenda is the public forum. Please note that each person will have up to 2 minutes to speak at public comment, and please start by stating your name and address. First, we'll start by people in the room. Is there anyone present in the room who would like to speak at public comment? No? And is there anyone on Zoom? Let's see. Okay, there does not appear to be.
So I do.
Okay.
So I'd like to recognize, this week we had 2 deaths in town for people that have been in town for a long, long time. First, Skip Hayward. He passed away the other day. Longtime friend of the town, longtime friend of our family, and overall just a very wonderful guy. One of those throwback guys that I know that when I used to plow snow for the highway department, Skip would come in and tell us what we were doing right, tell us what we were doing wrong, and on the really big storms, the only people that could run, we had a grader, an old junky grader, and the only person in town that could run that was Skip Hayward and his brother David Hayward. So those were the guys when we were really in trouble. Skip Hayward and Artie and Franny Pine, they would come in and they were basically our varsity team. They'd come in and make everything right for us. And you don't get that anymore. You don't get somebody that'll come down to volunteer just to make sure that the town works well. Skip was a really great guy, and passed away the other day with his family by his side, which is exactly how he wanted. He has a huge family, a huge contingency in town, and so he'll be missed. He was a call firefighter for a long time as well, worked for Rosenfeld for a million years. And the other one was Carol Kaminsky. Carol was someone that worked as a police dispatcher for a long, long time. Also was a baker in the schools. I can tell you that one of the reasons I can't go to Old Navy anymore to buy my clothes is because of Carol Kaminsky. She was a good baker. She worked with my grandmother at the schools, and she also was a great person. Her husband, Frank, was the highway surveyor back before I was involved with the highway, but they were longtime presence in Hopkins, so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention both of their passings today.
Thank you. I do see there is now someone on their hand, with their hand up on Zoom, so if we could go ahead and liven them up. Okay. So can you please state your... Yep, can you please state your name and address?
Yes, this is Anna Karnowski from the Wood State Authority Defense Fund.
I don't believe she lives in town.
Okay, people who don't live in town can still speak.
I'm who said I moved out of town. I don't know where you got that from.
What's your address, ma'am?
Yeah, what's your address?
32 East Bay.
Thank you.
Okay. I would just like to say that Article 45 is a serious matter. It's something, it seems to me there's something that could be lacking in the town, which is an expansive forest with trails and a place for habitat. But this section of town facing Nashville is overloaded with housing developments and has 2 commercial solar farms ready. I think that we should equate saving the forest with a public use, such as putting a building there. It's inaccessible. It's 100 acres combined with the Hall Deerwood Sanctuary, and it needs to be preserved for the residents of the town. It's extremely important. There's not another place on this side of town where somebody can enjoy themselves and walk and where the wildlife can go instead of munching on selective headstones and shrubbery, which I heard in the past. They won't be. They'll be in their own home there. So that's all I have to say. I hope you will support my article.
Thank you very much. And so,
Where the Tedstone shrubbery came through, but thank you for your time.
okay. Okay, so then if no other public comment, we'll move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda. So would anyone like to break out any of the consent agenda items? Okay. And then the board will consider approving consent agenda consisting of accepting a donation of $200 from Russell Phillips and Marcia Jean Caporzio to the Veteran Celebration Committee, accepting the resignation of Andrea Wilk from the Cultural Council, appointing Stephen Buckley as a traffic constable. Police Officer Buckley recently left after more than 26 years with the town. Would anyone like to make a motion?
There's also the resignation of Andrea Wilk from the Cultural Council.
I said that one.
You did?
I did.
Yeah.
It didn't go in order.
She didn't.
So I have it. Oh, this one's on second for some reason.
Okay.
I'll make that motion
Okay.
to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain?
And with our thanks for Andrea's work with the Cultural Council, and appreciation for Officer Buckley coming back as traffic constable.
Yeah, and for the donation for the Veteran Celebration.
Yeah,
So we have
absolutely.
Memorial Day coming up. Okay. All right, so next. Okay.
I'd just like to acknowledge the presence of Mrs. Carol Tedstone here tonight. We're very happy to have you.
Also a townie.
Yes, long time.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is new employee introductions. Fire Chief Bill Miller will introduce new hires Maxwell Hordley and Travis Metcalf to the board. Hoadley, I guess. That's right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for this opportunity to take a few minutes. I'd like to introduce two of our newest firefighter EMT soon-to-be paramedics. To my left is Travis Metcalf, and to my right is Maxwell Hoadley. Both gentlemen did very well. Selection group and interview process that we did about 2 months back. They scored very well. They interviewed very well. They had high recommendations from the interview committee, the organization, and with, in conjunction with HR. And since then, they have been going through the hiring process and have been offered jobs, and will be starting on May 2nd with HFD.
Okay, great. Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't. I was looking through their resume. It looks like they're dedicated and devoted. They've dipped their foot in the public safety world through the EMT medic world, and working your way up to the fire department. It's good to. You're pretty fortunate to start off in Hopkinton. It's a wonderful community. It's a great department. You know, just the show of your coworkers showing up here to back you guys up, to say something. You know, we're lucky to have you, but you're also very lucky to have our department. So, welcome aboard.
Well, I'm very impressed, and I'm particularly Maxwell. Max, do you call yourself Max? Max. Okay, Max. Your desire to use your scuba background and to do ice rescue. I can't imagine anything that's very dangerous, and I applaud your bravery and ability to step forward and say, I want to do ice rescue. We have four good bodies of water in town that do freeze, and we can really use your expertise. And and then Travis, you were EMT, and you want to do, you've been doing ambulance service, and that is equally as tough. So the two of you have my full support. I think that you're what we need in town for paramedics, and then with the water rescue, I think that's a really important part of the fire department.
Yep. So I always have the question, why Hopkinton, which, you know, is a standard question. But Max, I want to know what your Eagle Scout project was, and I want to know something interesting about you that people might not know that you're willing to share. So go ahead.
So my Eagle Scout project is when I was in high school in band, our band library was basically unusable. So my Eagle Scout project was to organize the entire band library, go through and then electronically categorize the whole library for our director and for the incoming students that would follow after myself.
Nice, very nice. And why Hopkinton?
It's an Eagle Scout.
I chose Hopkinton because you guys are in a great area in this, in the East Coast. You support your firefighters, you support your department, and overall, I've just heard amazing things about this department and never heard a bad thing about it.
Well, great. Good to have you.
Most people probably don't know that I have an undergrad in athletic training, which originally I wanted to go to PT school before entering working on an ambulance and realizing that I wanted to work for the fire service, which is a great undergrad because it helps me with all my evaluations when working. Then on top of with what Max said with why Hopkinton, on top of that, I'm also from Mendon, so I'm familiar with the area. I always wanted to work for a prestigious fire department, and Hopkinton offers that.
Nice. Well, you'll have to keep your standards up there, Chief, huh?
Thank you, Mira. I will.
Well, thank you both and welcome. I really enjoyed reading your resumes and about your experiences, and I'd just like to welcome you to the force. I think everyone else covered everything else.
Chief Miller, you can probably let them in on a cold water rescue drill story about... we can't do it here.
Okay, good.
Not right now.
We can do it another time.
Deal.
With retired Chief Clark.
Okay.
Okay. And so we don't need to make a motion, correct? No. Okay, so if there are no further questions?
That's it. Welcome aboard, guys.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the annual town meeting warrant. We need to finish taking positions on articles and reviewing draft motions and assigning town meeting duties and presentations. So the remaining articles that we didn't take a position on yet were community preservation funds and community preservation recommendations, numbers 31 and 32. Then we have new motions here, so let's see. So I understand the Community Reservation Committee has voted to take no action on the I can't remember which item number it was, but the Upper Charles Trail Campus Connector section.
The Upper Charles Trail Committee voted to withdraw its application.
Okay.
The Community Preservation Committee is scheduled to meet this Thursday.
Okay.
And in fact, when we're drawing up the motion document, they did not offer a motion.
They did what?
Did not offer a motion for that article.
Okay.
And which number was that? I'm sorry.
So it's 31 and 32.
It's both.
Yeah, 31
Item-
and 32.
Okay.
Yeah.
Item E. So should we wait to make our recommendation after the Community Preservation Committee meets?
I believe so.
Okay, so we could do that right before town meeting, which is our next,
Next meeting,
right?
just before town meeting. Exactly.
Right before.
So it'll be right before town meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so we'll,
Yeah.
is everyone okay with that? We'll wait to take a position until
Yep.
the night of town meeting. Okay. And then the next item is Article number 45, the land acquisition at 71 Franklin Road rear, which was a citizen's petition.
Oh, that's Ann that we just heard. Oh,
Right. Do we have any updates on that?
Yes. Two new pieces of information. The first being a report from Town Council that the planning board, in fact, now can state that there's a possibility that the litigation will be dismissed pursuant to a settlement.
Pursuant to a settlement?
Yes.
Okay.
And then secondly, the proponent has since clarified that she will be requesting town meeting to appropriate $500,000 towards the purchase of this parcel.
500,000?
So that's
Yes.
Ann Karnofsky?
Yes.
She wants us to give 500, she wants us to pay 500,000 towards the
Yes.
Generous.
Yeah. The Appropriations Committee has not taken a position. They did interact with Ann Kanowski, and their questions centered around whether an appraisal has been prepared, what the basis of the number is, and I believe if Ann is still around, she may explain how she arrived at the 500,000.
Okay. Let's see. So it looks like Ms. Karnofsky still is on the phone, so we could liven up the 508 number. Okay. Ms. Karnofsky, do you want to explain how you arrived at the 500,000?
Were you asking me questions?
Yes. Can you explain how you arrived at the 500,000 number?
Yes, it's 70 acres, 70 acres, adjoining the 12 acres that are preserved already called the Deer Run Sanctuary. And I think it's a good price at 500,000 because the principal assessor in town said the land value is worth 700,000. So certainly it's unbuildable. And if you do support this article and you do preserve this land, you will be preserving something for posterity, and you will be doing planning in a good way. The Growth Management Committee recommends that we save this large parcel. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
So I arrived at 500,000 because I know how much Seaboard Solar paid for that parcel and another one together. And I think this is about 50,000 more than their total purchase was. And as I said, John Neese said the land itself would be about $10,000 an acre.
Okay.
So it's an extensive parcel with very long winding trails. It's a unique parcel that should be saved. And we have two commercial solar farms on this side of town already, one on East Main and one on Wilson Street. And I think that we should be brave and make an action that assures 100% that we can preserve this land for the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So board members, do you have any more questions or
Yeah,
thoughts?
I do. So, Mr. Kamala, is it accurate where Ms. Karnofsky said that John Neese said that it's assessed at $700,000, an accurate assessment?
I was not part of that conversation. When I checked with John earlier, he was just getting ready to speak with Ann, and at that point he did share with me the steps that are required and specifically pointed out an appraisal. He has not undertaken an appraisal of the parcel.
So that's a hearsay statement
Yeah, we don't have
right
an
there.
appraisal.
Second thing is, she's asking the town to appropriate $500,000 to make an offer to buy this property for $700,000? Is that what?
No, I think she's going to make a motion for the town to appropriate $500,000 at town meeting for this article that is on the warrant.
And I would question where she stated that the lot was unbuildable, who she spoke to, like where she found this, to say that there's, how many acres is there?
I think she's 70, did she say?
She's 70.
So I find it hard to believe that there's, of that 70-acre parcel, it's completely unbuildable. So I would just question the accuracy that it's unbuildable, and I also, she threw out that John Neese assessed it at $700,000. I don't hear John Neese saying that, so I'm taking that as hearsay. That's not.
She said he estimated 10,000 per acre for that type of lot.
Okay. But again, he's not here to verify that.
Correct.
So.
Okay. Mary Jo, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I agree. I would have to talk to John and find out exactly what he's thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would not be opposed to John's input, but I think you need a formal appraisal.
Yes.
in order to, and John is a professional assessor, I don't mean that, but you need a formal appraisal in order to contemplate taking a parcel by eminent domain, which I think is what this article contemplates, and we would have to offer the appraised value, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. There are pieces of information that we'd have to have for certain in order to pursue this action, I believe.
Yeah.
So I would not be in support of it at this point.
I mean, eminent domain doesn't mean that you can just take a parcel.
That's correct.
You do have to
Pay the fair value.
do a lot of research and match a bona fide offer or a bona fide appraisal.
Right.
And it should be an outside appraiser.
Okay, so just for myself, like I'm really sorry to see this piece of land go just for
Me as
solar.
well.
I'd much rather see solar on rooftops and parking lots and open lots, not on wooded parcels. But, right, it does seem to be allowable under our current zoning, and we were not able to change the zoning last year to restrict this parcel.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so we have, I believe we are required to take a position on this article one way or another. Is that correct?
Correct. A select board recommendation is required. I also have a clarification from John Neese through the CFO. What John Neese told Anne is that if the land could not be developed, it could be worth 700,000. But that because it can be developed, the town is valuing it at 2,076,200.
Yeah, so there you go with the
Okay.
taking little bits and pieces of conversations and turning it into fact, so.
And he will bring that information to town meeting, or you'll,
Correct.
for the voters, because this is still, regardless of how we vote tonight, it still goes to town meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, to be clear, this is what the town is assessing the land for.
Not
If we're
appraising.
going, yes, if the town is going to take the land by eminent domain, we pay fair market value
Right.
based on the highest and best use of the property.
Yep. And it's been permitted, right? So-
Correct.
It doesn't sound like this is ready for, I mean, I don't, it doesn't sound like she's got all the, or this group has all their ducks in a row to have it appraised, assessed, find out what's buildable, if it's not buildable. You know, why would we as a town appropriate $500,000 to look into it if it's going to be worth $3 million because you can put a couple of houses on there? It's, you know, at $700,000, it might be something that the town's interested in, but John Neese just said that it is buildable. So, what are our options here? We can vote in support, vote not to support, or no action?
Correct.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion on the select board's recommendation?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we take, that we don't support Article 45.
I'm going to recommend against. Okay. All right, and then we'll take a vote. So all in favor of not recommending this article to town meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
I wish we could preserve it as well, but it's
I
just,
know.
the vehicle isn't in front of us to do that.
So I'm going to abstain from this one. In any case, it's just our recommendation. It will still be at town meeting. It could be discussed again at town meeting.
Well, we should have a figure to go to town meeting.
What's that?
I mean, we should have a figure to go to town meeting, and we don't have an appraisal, so we don't have any figure.
Okay.
The figure we have is just pulled out of the sky.
Right. But, I mean, how do eminent domains takings usually work? Because the landowner is not obligated to let us go appraise it, correct?
Even if we do eminent domain, we have to have that outside appraisal.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so then, let's see. So the next item on the agenda is town meeting articles with select board motions and presentation. Okay, so so what do we need to do on this? We need to decide who's going to represent each one?
In fact, what we're looking for are volunteers to make the presentations at town meeting. We have listed the articles that the select board will be representing and are asking for volunteers.
So it looks like there's 12 in total. Do we each want to do 3, or?
I would be more than happy to take 41, 42, and 4.
I think that's fair in your last town meeting. I'm fine with having, just being assigned.
Okay.
Which one, sorry?
You can just assign.
Just assign?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I'd be happy, yeah, I can just be assigned to. I'm happy to do the
I
commission.
think you should just choose for people.
For people. Okay, Elaine.
Okay.
Be kind.
Don't give the same person 3 hard ones. Okay.
Okay.
And we've already taken positions on these, right?
Hey, I think Irfan should get like 6, because he's not here. It's the
Oh, that's
military
right.
way of volunteering.
Can give him 10.
All right.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is alcohol compliance check violations at Central Public House. So Hopkinton Police Department will update the select board.
Evening.
A lot of brass over there.
Yeah, there is. Through the chair, good evening. As part of our annual work that we do at the station, as we help the town with all sorts of licensing and permitting, and we do compliance checks of the alcohol establishments. The person who, the deputy porter is here tonight because he oversees the detectives who do much of this work, and he can report on the last compliance check that we conducted. Go ahead, Anthony.
Good evening, through the chair. On March 30th, after sending notice to all the establishments in the town, the 30 days notice that the compliance checks would be coming up for the town, we had the detective division use one of our underage interns to attempt to purchase alcohol through several establishments, bars, as well as package stores in town. As always, our goal is for education and 100% compliance, and we almost got 100% compliance this year. Unfortunately, we did have one establishment that did fail the alcohol check, and simply happened was the intern went into the establishment, walked up to the bar, sat at the bar, ordered a drink. She's told that if she's asked for identification or questioned it at all, that she's to be truthful, and then get up and leave. This young lady was not asked for any type of alcohol identification. She was served a martini after it was placed in front of her. She then removed herself from her chair, went outside, met with the detective who detected the board. The board then came inside the establishment, requested to speak with the manager. Did speak with the manager, informed him of what had taken place in the underage service. The manager was extremely remorseful. He had received the notice. He spoke to all of his employees, had even given them a refresher about it and told them to be vigilant about it. And he was very disappointed that this had happened. We've never had any problems with this establishment before. They've always been very good and very respectful about making sure they check. We do think it was an anomaly for this. This was a new employee. We would suggest or recommend that we are allowed to continue to work with the establishment to make sure that there are no more failures and no more mistakes by the people that work for them going forward. Of course, the establishment was Central Tavern. Manager that we spoke with, Mike Thomas, and again, like I said, we were very compliant and we were very respectful and understood what we were there to do.
I reached out to the ABCC and confirmed through both their administrative panel as well as their investigation panel that there have been no negative encounters at the organization.
Okay. Board members, do you have any questions or comments? It looks like our decision tonight is whether we want to hold a public hearing to address the violation at a future meeting.
If I may?
Yep.
The owner and the manager at the Central Public House is here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Come on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you to the police department for your good work. Good evening.
Good evening.
We're doing well.
So I have a question. When this happened, obviously the police came and, you're the owner, you're the manager,
I'm the
right?
manager.
You're Mike?
Mike Thomas, yeah.
So Mike, Detective DeBoer came in and spoke to you. What day of the week was that?
I believe it was a Thursday.
Thursday? And how was the census at the bar?
The bar was relatively quiet. The restaurant floor was busy, so I know that bartender was making a lot of service drinks at the time.
Okay. And when they came in and had the discussion with you, how was the employee disciplined?
He was let go on the spot, and the rest of the staff.
That's all I need to hear. There you go. So you obviously take it very serious.
Absolutely. Zero tolerance.
And just the fact that Chief and Deputy Chief spoke highly of your organization. The times I've been in there, it's been nothing but professional and delicious. So I am inclined. We generally like to, it's not our goal to suspend licenses. We could suspend you 1 to 3 days. It's not our goal to do that. As Deputy Chief Porter said, we're about re-education and working with the establishments. We certainly don't need another empty building in town. So I would not vote to suspend. I would vote to educate, and knowing that the police chief and his staff is on it and will work with you, as long as you guys are good with it, then I'm glad to kind of take the slap on the wrist type thing.
Mary Jo?
I just hope that you will take this as a first warning, because it won't be this easy next time. If there is a next time, I hope there isn't.
There isn't.
That's really all I want to say right now.
What is the process that you use when you get notified by the town? It's a little surprising to me that you get notified by the town and it still happens.
Sure. Yeah, it's disappointing. I mean, we got the email, we shared it with the staff, we went over it at our pre-meals. Did we do it that specific day? Maybe not, and that's why it was out of sight, out of mind, but it just seems unfortunate that that employee that day didn't do his job.
So just along those lines, will you do it differently next time?
I mean, I think at least from my standpoint, I'll try and bring it up every day. I need to be just as vigilant as there. It kind of comes from the top down, and he puts a lot of that on me, and I put it on them. So maybe I can't miss a day to make sure that they don't miss it.
Yeah, and maybe not just the 30 days when you know that the check will be coming, but maybe some process in place so that there's a routine reminder. Because in this case, it's an inconvenience, it's an embarrassment. It might have cost you a couple of days of your license or whatever. But there are other situations where the consequences could be way worse. So putting some process in place that every day of the year you have some assurance that your staff is very vigilant.
Yeah, I think I agree with Muriel. Right, so it is just one time, and I'm glad you took the appropriate action. But we have a lot of young people in this town, 18 to 20, that we really need to make sure they don't get served in public places. And I, and middle-aged women are very happy to get carded, so I don't think you should have any fear of carding everybody. Even if they look like they're 40. But anyway, so I'm okay with skipping the suspension of the license for this time. But if it were to happen again, I think we would definitely. I think I would, if there were a second offense, I think I would feel much differently. Our decision point tonight, though, I think is just whether we're going to hold a public hearing on this or not.
I would move to not hold a public hearing on this.
I almost feel like this is it. I'm fine not having another public hearing or an official public hearing.
Okay, so I guess we would need a motion to waive the need for a public hearing in this violation?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then, let's see, anything else we need to take action on this?
If I may add, through the chair, I think what you are hearing tonight is that this town takes the use and abuse of alcohol very seriously. We celebrate our relationship with our businesses that hold licenses in this town, and that holding a license where you're serving alcohol comes with a great deal of liability, not just for your business, but for the community as a whole. And going forward, we offer our police department, youth and family services department to help you educate your employees. It's tough to see another employee lose a job.
Yes.
So we want to avoid that going forward. But again, the decision by the board to waive the public hearing comes with a very strong warning that the town takes this seriously.
Chief Bennett and Deputy Chief Porter, are you content with what we're saying right up here right now?
Through the chair, yes, I will offer that if there's anything we can do for the establishment to help, we're here. Just reach out and
Utilize those guys. They're good guys to have.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
And about how often do you do the compliance checks? Is it a couple times per year? Or
Daily.
So as a matter of law, we're required to give notice. And that notice is vague. So we could say today, over the next 365 days, we're going to give compliance checks and just send it out once a year.
I see.
But I will say it's often done, saying too much, more than once a year.
more than once a year? Okay.
So.
Great, thank you.
Sure. All right.
Okay.
You guys are released.
Thank you.
All right, so our next item is a COVID-19 update. The board will hear an update on the town response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think Sean is on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for having me this evening. So we are in the middle, or maybe the beginning stages of an increase in cases. We've seen a slow but steady increase since the last week of March. Over the month of April, we have seen, or the state DPH has reported 86 cases, which ends up being about 4.5 per day. What we do in Hopkinton is we keep a separate log of cases that are reported just to the health department and to the school nurses. We screen those, cross-reference them to make sure that they're not duplicate. And the real number that we've seen is 185 cases over the month of April so far. So we're averaging over 8 cases per day. Our percent positivity has increased. The DPH has us at 5.96. I believe it's actually closer to 8. Our 14-day case rate per 100,000 is 25.3. So both the percent positivity metric and the 14-day case rate would put us in the CDC's moderate risk range. So, we know what we need to do. We've been doing this for 2 years. If we're in high-risk situations, we should be carrying and utilizing face coverings. We have much improving weather, so we should take advantage of doing what we can with the windows open if we're going to be inside, hosting events outside, and just practicing, distancing and all the other measures that we have utilized over the last year. As a department, we are equipping the school's senior center library, and other departments with extra face coverings. We purchased N95s for these departments. We're about to put a second order in to have a bulk supply, and we're working with the DPH and there's another, through our MRC partnership, to bring in some extras so that we have an ample supply for our public safety and DPW employees. We're asking municipal employees to, again, stay home if you're sick, have the conversation with your superior, and or contact the health department to have discussions about your illness so that we can pre-screen you and get you tested before you come into the workplace. As I think most of you know, I've just finished recovering from COVID, and what we're seeing and what we've seen in my family and the group that caught COVID together, and my discussions with the DPH, is that, my wife and I both tested negative by PCR 12 hours before we tested positive by antigen test. So what we're seeing is that this variant of Omicron, it's replicating very quickly once it's found its way into our, most often than not, into our pharynx. So we're seeing, the development of sore throats, then a nasal issue, or younger kids tend to get sick because instead of going down their lungs, it goes into their stomachs. So it's a rapid onset of illness. People often miss it the first couple times that they test, or in our case, I would argue that most parents would say, well, I tested negative by PCR, it can't be COVID. And then they go off to work, they send the kids off to school. And in our, in our cluster of cases, everybody was contagious through day 8, and I was contagious through day 14. So the other thing that the DPH and some of the physicians that work with the DPH, we're all looking at whether or not this illness, although it might not be as virulent, and whereas it's more of a nuisance, what we're thinking is that people are contracting it, they're heeding the 5-day isolation, then on day 6 when they're allowed to go out in public with a face covering, they might not be totally compliant. And what we're seeing, like in the school setting, is that we'll have a group of cases on one day, we'll have a lapse of cases for about 6-7 days, and then a whole host of new cases. And we think this is because kids that are returning, teachers that are returning, are still positive on that day 7, day 8, or as in my case, they might be still positive or contagious going into that second week. So we're just asking people, again, to communicate with your primary care doctors, pediatricians, health department, call in before you step in, and if we do this, we should see a leveling off of the cases, and then I think as it gets more humid, it'll be a little more difficult to transmit, and we'll start seeing our cases drop down. If there's a positive note or a silver lining, all research to date suggests that if you caught Omicron in January or during January to March, that Omicron that you caught will be protective against the BA2 that is currently in Hopkinton and the new BA variants 2.12, 2.12.1, BA3, BA4, and BA5. So we know that about a quarter of the population caught BA2 during the last surge. So we're hopeful that between our high vaccination rates, the number of people that caught COVID, the fact that people are and still have been generally conscientious about using masks, staying home when they're sick, we should be in a good position.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Okay.
Is there anything else, or we're good?
No.
No.
I could talk about something else that's coming up next time.
Something.
Next time would be great.
Okay.
It'll be better news.
You're not going to be in.
It'll be bad news.
Better news.
Better news.
Really good news.
Okay.
I think at the next meeting, Sean, I would suggest that you ask for a little bit more time and go. Like, if you have 45 minutes worth of material, bring it on.
Yeah. I'm just...
All you like, you can have all the time you like.
I have a question, Sean.
Okay.
Yes.
As the Board of Health, have you been in touch with all of the restaurants in town and really severely suggested they go to outdoor dining as soon as possible? Like they did last year?
We have discussed with all the restaurants that our expectation is that they will seek to follow the same policies and procedures that they did last year, knowing that those procedures appear to have worked, and we had minimal spread in our restaurants.
And then at town meeting, we'll have spaced out procedures where we can sit safely. Has that been discussed with the moderator and town clerk?
We'll have improved ventilation, we'll have face coverings available, we'll have signage posted, we will be working on a media campaign going into town meeting, really just recommending that if you're sick, you stay home, take those precautions. We'll have ample supplies of face coverings, and again, we'll have the field house open. We'll be drawing fresh air in, and really just setting up an optimal environment to have a safe time meeting.
Okay, thank you. Muriel, do you have any questions? Or
I don't.
good?
Thank you, Sean. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll hear more next time. Okay, so next on the agenda is the town manager report. Mr. Kamala, do you have
Yes, through the chair, a quick update. As you may have noticed, today the construction on Main Street did pick up. The focus continues to be on the westerly side to the west of the Main Street intersection. Going forward, we are expecting to continue the underground conduit, laying the underground conduit, as well as also shifting the lay down areas to Marathon Way and the snow dump going forward.
Okay, great.
Just asking, so not on Mayhew?
Marshall?
I'm sorry, Marshall.
Yeah, but yes, given the work that is going to be undertaken going forward, which is going to, as soon as we finish the underground conduit, we will now shift to this side of the project, and therefore we'll be using Marathon Way and the snow dump.
But not exclusively. You still have the option and availability to use Marshall Ave, right?
That option is there, but we will not be exercising it for now.
For now. So just when this comes up in an email or two, not that I care because I won't be getting them, but when it comes up in an email or two, you're just, right now, it's going to be going dormant, but the possibility of reusing it, using it again is on the table.
I think
these people are going to watch the video and they're going to say...
To be very...
That's why I'm trying to get clarity.
To be very clear, Marshall Ave is available as a lay-down area. For now, we're not going to be using Marshall Ave. because the work is moving and shifting to the side of our downtown.
That's really great news. Thank you so much.
Okay, anything else in the town manager report? Just the Main Street update?
Good news is we have no new update on the budget, so the budget is still balanced.
Okay, good. I noticed the Appropriations Committee report is out today and is on the town website for people who want to see that budget breakdown.
Yes, and perhaps through the chair, I want to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude to the finance team, Tim O'Leary, Ben Sweeney, Chris Haymans, as well as their support staff. Working alongside the Appropriations Committee, I think they've put a very complete and thorough report ahead of town meeting.
Yeah, I think they do a really good job on that report, and it really does give you all the detail if you don't know how much debt the town has or when we're going to pay something off. It's all there.
Yes, and also I want to take this opportunity to thank Elaine, who has been coordinating the operational side relative to town meeting. So most of the information, some of the information that fits into the report comes through the work that Elaine does coordinating that process.
Great. Okay.
It's probably the right time to remind people that town meeting is May 2nd.
Okay, so town meeting is coming up May 2nd, starting at 7 p.m. at the high school, not the middle school. So we can space out and have better ventilation. And so I hope everybody will attend, and we'll read their reports in advance. Anything else we need to remind of? Does anyone have any liaison reports or board invites?
Excuse me?
Liaison reports or board invites?
No, but I do want to say thank you to Brendan for his 6 years of work with this board. And we will be seeing you again at town meeting, or maybe a little before if we need another meeting. But 6 years is a long time to dedicate part of your life to the town. And you've done it all your life in different areas. So I think that you deserve a hand. So,
and I will say, because Irfan can't be here tonight, we would like to have another time, not at a meeting, to thank you more properly. Outside of a meeting.
Sounds good.
Irfan's back.
and Carol.
That's together outside of the meeting. Do we have to post?
I think we would have to post it, yeah. We did that when Kobe retired. We had an event, we just posted it.
I'd like to personally say thank you too. So I served on this board many years ago, and I'm going to tell a little Brendan story. I met Brendan at Cornell's. Yes, there's no surprise there, okay. But I was getting sort of roundly beat up as a select board member in the day. And my husband and I were there, and Brendan came over and introduced himself to me. I tell this story to more than a few people. And wanted to get to know me for himself, as opposed to just knowing whatever it was he was reading or making assumptions. And I have always appreciated that, and have always appreciated your very direct, accessible approach. So I thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
And I would also like to thank you. You have the most experience of any of us on the board at the moment, so it's really been helpful when we come across a situation that I have not experienced in my 2 years. So we'll miss that. Irfan will now. Well, no, Muriel's served. You served for 3 years prior. Yeah, so.
You can have it.
Yeah.
So I would just like to say, so it's been a pretty good 6 years. I'm glad that I ran for selectman back when I could run for selectman. I'm the last person, I think, elected as a selectman and the first person elected as a select board member, so somewhere in there.
Came out in the dead of night to change those signs.
I sure did. And I was met by a ton of pushback by certain people that I will not mention, nor can I stand. But I would like to say thank you to a few people coming into this whole selectman position. It was brought on by what I felt was the inappropriate treatment of our then Deputy Fire Chief Slammin. So I was told by a member on the Board of Selectmen, put your money where your mouth is, big boy, you can pull your papers tomorrow. And I did. and I won. One of the most influential guy I'm going to leave till the last, but one of the people that I really leaned on a lot to learn the ropes of this job and town politics and just dealing with the town is a long time family friend, Bobby Bartlett. Bobby and I would talk probably for the first couple of months, at least every day. And then as I became more comfortable, he kind of told me, don't bug me about these certain things. And he was very instrumental on helping me become, I feel, successful as a selectman. Also was Brian Herr. Brian was a guy that kind of took me under his wing. I knew nothing about municipal finance, about town government, and Brian was very patient and very accommodating, and I found Brian to be about as middle of the road on the board as we had. He actually, there were a few times which leads me into Mr. Khumalo. There were a few times when I first got here that there were some things that I said that were not appropriate. Not inappropriate socially, but inappropriate for my role as a selectman. And Brian really put me in my place. And but Mr. Khumalo really was the guy that anytime I had a problem, I could talk to him on the phone. We never texted, we never emailed. We didn't want any type of strain. I didn't want to be tied to any type of Freedom of Information Act garbage that was out there. I was able to talk with Mr. Khumalo about anything at any time, and he was very, very, very accessible to me. And the lessons I learned from dealing with him were far more than what he got from me. And then lastly is one of the guys that really pushed me and really made me proud that I got to be voted as selectman, was Tommy McIntyre. And Tommy was just a lifelong great friend of mine. He's an idol of mine, and he's someone that everybody aspires to be. And I remember the day of his wake, we had the meeting in the library because this place was flooded. The school library, and I remember talking about him and just breaking down and crying. And there's not a day goes by that I don't think about Tommy. And I wake up and I go get dressed in my closet. I look at his house. I drive by his house every day, and he's just one of those guys that's so instrumental. And it just really it left a void with me when he passed. But most importantly, he passed before I could be up on the stage at my first town meeting with him there, and it still makes me very sad that he had passed before that had happened. But he's a guy that was absolutely instrumental. And then to the board that I'm leaving, the only thing I would say is take this with a grain of salt if you want to listen or not. But I would just really stay focused on issues that belong in Hopkinton, and don't try to bring any national stuff. Try to stay away from all the minutia, and just focus on stuff that betters Hopkinton. There's been a lot of votes that I voted against how I felt, but I thought was best for the town, and I never ever brought national politics into my thought process with Hopkinton. And if you take it for what it's worth, but that's how I foresee a board to be very successful moving forward, is focusing more on the local than the national. So for that, thank you all for doing what you did, and Mr. Khumalo, you've earned my trust, respect, and admiration in the work that you and I have done hand in hand for the last 6 years, and thank you very much.
Thank you for the kind words.
Motion to dismiss.
Okay, we did say we were going to prioritize our future board agenda items. If you really want, you can be excused from that part. No?
Perfect attendance. I'm not missing it.
All right. So our future agenda items was at the end of the packet, and there are 15 items. I think we said we would pick maybe 2 to go to the next meeting after town meeting, right? So do you?
I would really love to weigh in on the prison moratorium bill that's in front of the House and Senate, because it's timely.
Okay.
Mr. Kamala, is there discussion of a prison to be built in Hopkins?
Metro West.
Hopkins?
Not in
Talking about
Hopkins.
Metro West.
Yeah.
I'm completely for it. Like, I don't think that there should be a new prison built. I think they should live in the prisons that are there. Obviously, we're looking at things through different eyes,
And
but
yet we get to the same end.
Yeah. If I may, through the chair, we did provide a list, and perhaps a good starting point may be to identify items that are still on this list that have been worked on already.
Okay.
Yeah, because this list is much shorter than the 15 that we listed. For example, discharge of guns at night in residential areas. This issue came up. The board looked into it. There was a specific concern regarding a specific neighborhood. That issue went away. Does the board still want to look at this?
Oh, I didn't think it went away. We just withdrew we had a proposed article that we decided not to move forward, correct?
Yes,
but it was that Irfan's
It was.
proposal?
Yes, but
There's no longer a nuisance issue with firearm discharge at night?
the individuals who were concerned, who were driving this, I believe one of the individuals who was actually the location of the firearms exercises that the neighbors were objecting to, sold their property and left town.
Okay.
and the person who brought it to us sold and moved.
Exactly.
Okay, so then I would be okay with removing that. I feel a little bad because Irfan's not here tonight, but,
Yeah, no, and Irfan can bring it back if he felt like he needed to.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think we can cross that one off then.
Yeah. And then the second one is reconstruction of the Sandy Beach parking lot, done.
Yeah, that's one of my,
Okay.
Yeah. And then, number 5 and 7, Economic Development Officer.
Those are the
for
same, really.
community.
Yeah.
Yes, same issue. We understand through our budget process, we have partially addressed this issue. It's not a full-time position, it's a function that will be performed by one of the positions in the town manager's budget.
But a new position, correct?
No, it's an existing position that had not been filled before.
What's the position?
I think it was formerly Jamie Helen, is that the one you're
Yes.
referring to? That's been vacant.
Yes.
Formally, I'm sorry.
Jamie Helen, do you remember him?
Okay.
Yeah.
Jamie Helen.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So do we
and-
feel like we could remove that one then, or do you want, I guess when the new person's hired, it seems like we might want to discuss, or meet, well, I guess we'll meet the new person when they're hired and discuss with them, right? Okay,
When the person is hired, they will be presented for affirmation to this board.
okay.
And then the number 11. We were not so sure if there's a way of actually addressing this specific question, because as we've explained to the board, the focus now is on the manufacturers.
Right, I think it could be removed because I think it's going to come up at town meeting because we have 2 PFAS articles that are expensive to be voted on, so I think people are going to ask these sort of questions at town meeting.
Yeah.
So I think it could be removed from the future.
And then number 12, we have presented the budget, have explained the variations from the budget message, and
That's
discussed those. Okay. And then, Cumberland Farms still in the works. We are working on a proposal that we're discussing first internally, and then with Mass DOT, then the property owners, and then we bring it to the board.
Okay. So we should keep that on there.
Yeah, that one should just stay on there. The Legacy Farms tracking document, we were not so sure exactly what you may be looking for. So again, I'm using this opportunity to initiate the discussion, and then based on what we discuss, we can point to the issues that we really want to move forward.
Yeah, I guess it would just kind of a continuation of what the Gross Study Committee did, but also there's these little leftover items like the house at 83 East Main that was supposed to be preserved but was not. like, that's kind of an item that's still kind of left over from the legacy farms. It was in the host community agreement. And then I guess how many units have been built and how many are left, that sort of thing.
We continue to do that. Perhaps this is a two-track process. There is work that is being performed under the certificates of approval issued by the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, as well as the building permits. That work continues. We do monthly reports on that. And then there is the host community agreement. We have gone through literally, I think, almost all the issues that are in the agreement. So do you want us to do a final report?
I guess so. So you think maybe the 83 East Main is the last thing? The house to be preserved, or?
Is that in the certificate of approval, I believe, Elaine?
It's in the host community agreement.
Yeah.
So the host community agreement states that the 83 East Main Street building is not to be demolished. But recently, the Historical Commission voted that they would approve the replacement building. And I guess the question is, does the host community agreement need to be amended to allow that?
Yeah, and I think
The town council, yeah.
Yeah. So those are just kind of loose ends, I think, that maybe to be tied up. I don't know that it needs to be amended, but it sounded like they were also going to build some other structures on the same lot when they rebuilt the 83 East Main too, so I don't know.
Okay. Again, we will review those documents alongside our colleagues from the Land Use Department.
Yep.
Okay. And then the remaining issues are number 4, the social justice issues. The number 6, the master plan action implementation plan items.
Yeah, we gotta do that.
And then number 8, the creation of a cultural district. Number 9, question. In fact, the town initiated the painting of the center lines on our street because of a public safety concern. So is the idea that we look at other towns that may require that?
So I think I brought this up, right? That's
Yeah.
why you're looking at me.
Is this how somebody-
Is your name on it?
Yeah, and I think it came from work on the Growth Study Committee that Jane Moran brought up. And so if it is, being actively pursued, center lines and fog lines, she indicated, were big safety features, and she is, of course, a retired police officer and a public safety expert. So I thought it was worth asking about. So is that something that's built into our processes now to start to make sure we refresh those lines, or what are you saying? I'm sorry.
I have seen some roads that have center lines now that did not used to recently. Is it?
Yes, for example, Ash Street did not have a center line, now it has a center line.
Nice.
Yeah. Fog lines, we as part of the bid processes that the TPW puts together for each year, we included that element. We did not receive a response yet. However, we are really focusing on doing fog lines where the road width allows.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So do we think?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. It was really just a discussion point. I'm not the expert, so I'm fine.
So you okay with crossing that one off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then examination into municipal cable. This takes me back to 13 years ago when I joined the town and made the initial proposal to put fiber optic cable connecting the town buildings. Back then, I think we only had $170,000 to do that. So if this is something that I think Ifan suggested, we can look into what would it take for the town to pursue this goal. So that's number 10.
I would just as soon leave it and have Irfan.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the two remaining ones are 13 and 14. 13 is the Upper Charles Trail process,
Yeah.
which which I believe has been revamped in the last months, and it would not hurt to have Jane come and explain the next steps to this board.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think it would be good if she came after town meeting at some point and explained, because I think part of the charge was that the select board would pick between 2 or 3 options, so I want to make sure that we know, what our role is and when that part would happen.
Yeah, and in fact, if I may, my understanding to date is that consistent with the Upper Charles Trail Committee's commitment to including the public throughout its process, they have upped the ante in that regard and have set up meetings to receive input, not just on the options that they are looking at now, but the other options that they looked at over the years. There was a public meeting last week, I believe, Elaine, where they looked at a minimum of 6 options. And even in that meeting, encouraged residents to even point out other options. They will follow that with a formalized report on what was discussed at this public meeting, present that to the public, and then based on the discussion with the public, then formulate some options that they will still bring back to the public before they get to the 2 options to be presented to the select board. So we're still a long way off. They have embarked on a very robust public consultation process, and they are using the information provided by the public to inform whatever decision is going to be made in the future relative to the 2 options to be presented to the select board.
I would just love for them to come to us, though, as one of the steps, because we're a pretty public forum, too, and we could give our feedback. I don't know how others feel, just as part of their process of reaching out and explaining all the options and getting feedback. I know I tried to attend the forum remotely last week because it was at 5 o'clock and I was still driving home from work, but you really couldn't, attending remotely, you couldn't really participate, so I was not able to participate in that one, and it didn't seem to be on HCAM, so.
But if they came before us and gave us an update and we were able to talk about the process, that would be good.
I think that would be helpful.
We'll work with the chair to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, then the last one, therefore, is number 14. Senate and House bills regarding temporary moratorium on construction of new jails and prisons.
So maybe we could discuss that when our fun's back next time?
So I think based on the ones we've listed as outstanding, the board may pick the 2 to be brought to the next meeting.
Okay.
I'm fine with any of them. I don't mind waiting on Irfan to see if he wants the one to be brought forward. And also I'm cognizant that we have to invite the Upper Charles Trail Committee. They may not have availability.
Yeah, so I don't think that one's as urgent. Wait till they have a good time they could come. I guess I would be interested in discussing the cultural district sooner rather than later, because I know we could invite the cultural council to come explain about that. And then maybe the temporary moratorium on the new jails and prisons at the next meeting? Or does anything else seem urgent?
So, which of the 2?
I was suggesting number 8 and number 14 for the next meeting.
Yes. We will then have a conversation with the chair to talk about how we prepare, what materials are required, and what questions.
Yeah, I know they've been really busy, so that I think number 13 doesn't have to be at the next meeting, right?
Okay. Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate this a lot.
Okay. Elaine, anything else? Okay. We're good.
Okay, and then...
But we're going to have to we're gonna have to talk about that master plan though, and that's gonna take
Yes.
some preparation.
Well, we did prepare for it, you and I, last year. We went through them.
And I prepared as a member of the planning board, that's been a while.
Yeah, or, yeah, it says it
And
was.
then you did something here?
I think you and I went through the spreadsheet on which items were marked as select board action items, and I think Elaine gave me some updates on what was done and not done.
Okay, great.
But maybe that's been maybe a year, so it's probably changed.
Awesome.
So,
Well, thank you for doing
yeah, we
that.
were assigned a lot of items in the master plan that we're gonna make sure we are following through with. Okay, so, so we just did future board agenda items, nothing else, right?
All set?
Okay. Can we do it for one last time, Brennan?
Yeah, I would like to, I move to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?